last 2 weeks. Bob King spoke 2 weekends ago. Aaron Buer spoke last weekend. Can you do something? Can you thank them just out loud? For their work and the way they serve us. We are just so blessed here to have teachers in-house that can step up and open the scriptures for us with such skill. And so today, as we turn our attention to the fourth message in this series, I just want to begin kind of with yard cleanup. You know, it's spring, some beautiful days, snow is gone. You walk around your yard, there's some sticks that have blown down, and you pick them up, and they've been there for a while. And you take a stick like this, and if you apply just a little pressure in the right place, it snaps. And I'm just wondering how many of you feel like in this area of family, you've come under such pressure in one particular area, you think, this could break me. This family conflict right now could break me. It's the middle schooler or high schooler. Your mom and dad call you together for a family meeting, and there is going to be a separation as they work things out. And yet 1 week moves into the next and moves into the next, and you don't know if this is going to work out, and the parent that you're living with begins to spiral into depression, and you just feel alone. You feel angry and alone. And there's pressure in your life, the pressure that you think, this could break me. Family companies, family businesses have interesting dynamics. There's a major difference of opinion. There's some significant money on the line. You know, this could be a breaking point. Lengthy season of infertility. And then a traumatic miscarriage. You go, God, I'm just breaking here. A son or daughter is back in rehab. A mom or dad is back in rehab, or a son or daughter refuses rehab, or a mom or dad. And after a while, there's such pressure in a sensitive spot, and you feel like something in you could just snap, could just break. The main character in this story, Finding Hope in Family Conflict, is a dude by the name of Jacob. And the Jacob story is in Genesis in our Bible. And what that means is this is one of the first stories we get in the Bible. This is way before the time of King David, way before the time of Jesus. It's one of the inaugural stories. And Jacob is at a breaking point when we visit him today. If he were to describe his situation, I believe very much, he might not use a stick analogy, but he would say, there is so much pressure, this could break me. And it's coming from conflict in his life. There are some major conflicts. Number one, he's had a massive falling out with an embittered father-in-law, a guy by the name of Laban, and he has to return and try to make amends to a brother that he ripped off 20 years before, a brother by the name of Esau. And with this conflict with Laban and with this conflict with Esau, it drives him to a breaking point. A little bit of backstory on Jacob. It starts with grandpa. Jacob's grandpa is a guy by the name of Abraham. And God comes to Abraham and says, listen, I need you to move. I need you to leave your family. I need you to leave your family's idols. I'm going to take you to a place, a new place. And I just want you to notice a word that appears 5 or 6 times here. It says, I will make you a great nation and I will bless you. I will make your name great and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. Whoever curses you, I will curse. And all peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. And there's a word that occurs over and over and over. It's like Abraham, just follow my voice, just follow me, follow my leading, and I will bless you in an extraordinary way. And not just you, the peoples of the earth will be blessed through you. And all of a sudden you introduce something called the blessing. And Abraham has a son by the name of Isaac, and then Isaac has twins by the name of Jacob and Esau and Jacob, and they're twins. But Esau is born first, he's the firstborn, but Jacob is born seconds later. And some of you remember this story. As Jacob is born, the connection between the boys is really interesting because Jacob is hanging on to Esau's heel. And apparently the word Jacob sounds kind of like the Hebrew word heel, and it came to connote the idea of being a heel grabber. Someone who trips other people up, a conniver, a manipulator. The boys grow, and Isaac, the dad, says, Esau, my firstborn, I want to give you the blessing. Go out and kill some venison, bring it back, cook it up, and I will bless you. Mom overhears that. She dresses up the younger son, minutes younger, but the younger son, Jacob, in Esau's clothes. Dad is functionally blind. He can't see. She dresses up Jacob in Esau's clothes, kind of like goat skin on his hands to make him feel like hairy Esau. He comes in and basically functionally steals the blessing from his brother. Isaac, the dad, may the Lord bless you with the heavens dew. May he bless you with the earth's riches. May he bless you with an abundance of grain and abundance of wine. May nations bow down to you. May people serve you. May your mother's sons bow down to you. Whoever curses you, may they be cursed. Whoever blesses you, may they be blessed. It's irrevocable. Jacob steals the blessing. Esau, the brother, is kind of like, yeah, well, whatever. Oh, no. He's murderous. He goes, when dad dies, I'm killing Jacob. I wonder if Jacob got the clue when he walked outside and saw Esau taking target practice, and one of those targets looked an awful lot like him. And his mom pulls him aside and says, you get out of here, you run far and you flee fast, and you go spend some time with your uncle. And he does. Jacob goes way to the north to a place called Haran, where the ancestral family was, and he's hanging out with his uncle. Today, he's been there 20 years, and it's time for Jacob to go back home. When he leaves home, he leaves home with nothing. We're talking like a walking stick and some groceries. He leaves home with nothing. Now it's 20 years later and it's time to go back home. You say, well, he doesn't have nothing. He's got the blessing. I mean, you got a blessing goes from Abraham to Isaac and Jacob. See, now here's the deal. Jacob has the blessing of Abraham, but he doesn't have the journey of Abraham. Abraham had this lifetime of following God and learning to trust God. Jacob doesn't. I don't think Jacob knows God. I don't think Jacob trusts God. And so he has the spiritual legacy of Abraham, but without the character of Abraham, without the journey of Abraham, without the trust of Abraham. And I believe the question before the house, as Jacob takes off and runs north to spend 2 decades with his uncle, the question is this: will the God of Abraham become the God of Jacob? It's 20 years later, and I think the jury is still out. What's going to happen here in this conflict where Jacob is brought to a breaking point because of conflict with his embittered father-in-law, conflict with his homicidal twin brother. What's going to happen is this is an opportunity for Jacob to see God, know God, and trust God like he has never seen him, known him, and trusted him before. And this is huge for us. Absolutely huge. Because when you get tossed into the swirl of some kind of family conflict, a lengthy and dangerous hospitalization of a child, a parent, a spouse, or sibling, some family business challenge, drug or alcohol addiction, when you get thrown into that, the normal and natural inclination and our highest hope is, I want this to go away. I want to get out from under this pressure that feels like it's breaking me. I want this to go away, and I want it to go away fast. What we often miss is that very space that we hate, that very space that we despise, becomes the very space where our gracious God does some of his best work, where we have an opportunity to see him and to know him and to trust him like we've never seen him, known him, and trusted him before. So let's just walk with Jacob through these conflicts. And there are 3 conflicts that we're going to watch today. And as we watch him, I think that we will learn a ton about meeting God in the spaces that we simply want to get out of. So conflict number 1 is just conflict with the embittered father-in-law. Now, Jacob's been working there for like 20 years with his father-in-law, been up north in Haran. All of a sudden you have this verse in chapter 31, verse 1, Genesis 31:1, which says, now Jacob heard that the sons of Laban, that would be his brothers-in-law, were saying, Jacob has taken all that was our father's, and from what was our father's, he has gained all his wealth. And this was true. Jacob had worked for Laban for 20 years. The first 7 years, he shows up and Laban says, just because you're a relative, why should I make you work for free? Name your wages. And Jacob goes, I want her. I want your daughter, which happened to be his cousin. This would be the perfect spot for someone with less tact to make regional jokes about marrying your cousin. I will pass. I'm not saying anything about Kentucky. Moving on. So 7 years. Aaron Buer's great message last week. Download it if you didn't catch it. Wedding night. Laban, the father-in-law, swaps the daughters, puts Leah, the older daughter. She would have been veiled. It would have been dark. There's no electricity, maybe a little wine involved. Jacob wakes up the next day and he's married the wrong girl. Laban says, oh, I'll give you Rachel now, but you have to work for me another 7 years. So the first 14 years of Jacob serving Laban, what is his reward? He gets 2 wives, sisters, not recommended under most conditions. And then Laban says, no, don't leave. I know you've paid me off for the 2 girls. Just name your wages. And all of a sudden there's this fiasco of this renegotiation. Jacob says, okay, I'll take all the striped lambs. And well, there aren't many striped lambs. You get the striped ones. All of a sudden these lambs start giving birth to striped lambs. Like, oh, no. Laban says, renegotiate. It's the spotted ones. Oh, no, renegotiate. It's, the speckled ones. Oh, no, renegotiate. It's the white ones. And Jacob is systematically taking the family wealth. Now, let's just put this in modern day, just a modern day parallel story. Imagine a group of brothers that run a family business with their dad. They have a sister, she gets married, and they allow the brother-in-law to become part of the family business. And when they try to negotiate a salary with the brother-in-law, he says, listen, I'll pass on a salary, but this is a manufacturing company and they've got like a dozen or so products. He says, what's your lowest performing product? I mean, what's the dog here? And they go, man, this product right here, it just hasn't done anything. We're trying to figure out how to get rid of it. He says, listen, in lieu of a salary, I'll take the lowest performing product you have. And they say, okay, not very smart. We hope our sister eats, but you got it. And over a very short period of time, it becomes an Amazon sales sensation. It starts blowing everything else away. And they go, no, we need to renegotiate. We need that back. He says, okay, well, what is now your lowest performing product? They go, well, it's this one. I'll take that one. And that one rockets. And over a period of 4, 5, 6 years, suddenly 90% of the company becomes the brother-in-law's. Any animosity here that you would sense coming out of the situation? That is exactly what's happening in Genesis 31:1, where Jacob overhears his brothers-in-law saying, that dude has taken all of our family wealth. I think it's time to leave. Do you think it's time to leave? God thinks it's time to leave. Verse 3 of this passage, then the Lord said to Jacob, go back to the land of your fathers and to your relatives, and I'll be with you. Why is that important? Because movement is scary. He's got to find a way to detach himself away from an embittered father-in-law, and he's going to go face a brother, a murderous brother that he ripped off 20 years earlier. This is scary. This, my friends, is why we get stuck. Because sometimes while the space we're in is awful space, it's bad space, it isn't great space, often we get stuck there because we're fearful of what lies ahead. And just that promise at the end, I will be with you. Jacob is in Haran. He needs to end up back in Canaan. This is like the Abraham move all over again. Except Abraham was told, leave your family, go to a place that I will show you. Jacob is told, return to your family. But it's about movement. And movement is a huge theme that shows up again in the Bible. God comes to Abraham, says, leave your family, leave your family's idols, and just go to a place I will show you. Abraham goes, can I have a brochure? He says, no, I'll explain it out along the way, just get going. Jesus is walking beside the Sea of Galilee. There's some guys that he's met before. They're not strangers. Peter and Andrew throwing fishing nets into the water. And Jesus says, I want you to leave your nets and follow me. It's time for a move. It's time to move. And they go, well, where are you going? Where are we going? We're going where I'm taking you. And it says that heroically they left their nets with their business partners and began to follow Jesus for the next 3 years. It's a story of movement. Sometimes it's time for a move. One of the most powerful stories Jesus told is the story of the prodigal son. There's a kid that demands the family inheritance early, blows it all on partying, ends up in rags, starving, and says, I'm gonna go back to my dad. I'm gonna apologize. I'm gonna say, I've sinned against you, the family. I've sinned against heaven. I'm not even worthy to be called your son. And the prodigal son moves and goes back toward home. The story of the Bible, there's this common motif of movement because sometimes it's time for a move. Now, Jacob's move was a geographic move, and a lot of times our moves are moves you need to take in attitudes, actions, and behaviors, not geographic, meaning you can live in the same house, work at the same company, but definitely God is calling on you for a move. And so I just wonder in this moment before we move on, I'm just wondering if any of you would hear the whisper of God right now in your heart that would just say, it's time for a move. What attitude, what action, what behavior might God be calling you to leave? You were hurt badly. All right, grieve, mourn, hurt. But there could come a day when you hear the voice of your gracious God whisper, listen, it's time to move on now. And moving on can be challenging. Some of you right now are embedded in a friend group. It's like they're not helping you move forward in life. You're not helping them move forward in life. You're blissfully all stuck together and there's this kind of like this downward spiral. Just hear the word of your gracious God today. Just whisper, man, it's time for a move. What if it's time to explore new friendships that begin to lift you and you begin to lift them and you begin to actually become that person that God created you to be right now where you sit? Is it possible that your gracious God is whispering to you, it's time for a move? Is there any attitude, action, or behavior that was part of your past that should not be part of your future? Jacob has been living with Laban up north for 20 years, and for Jacob, it's time for a move. And his move is described with a very interesting term. Verse 21 of that chapter, so he fled with all he had, which would have included wives, 11 kids, herds, flocks, with all he had, and headed for the hill country of Gilead. So he fled. Now, the idea behind fleeing is that if you flee, the implication there is that somebody is what? Chasing you. Little secret, Jacob didn't say goodbye when he left. And I think Laban was like 3 days away from where Jacob was camped out. Jacob is like, we're leaving now. He's never gonna let us go. He puts his wives and kids on camels, and literally they take off. But you've got 11 kids, you've got all this livestock. This is not a group that was built for speed. They're trying to move this. Laban finds out 3 days later, no. He grabs all his relatives and they are in hot pursuit, and it takes them 7 days to catch up with Jacob and the family, and they camp out, and your heart should be beating a little bit. You should go, I'm not sure Jacob is even gonna come out of this alive. And this is where God intervenes. Remember that? Go back to your family's people, and I will be what? I will be with you. Check this out in verse 24. Then God came to Laban the Aramean in a dream at night and said to him, be careful not to say anything to Jacob, either good or bad. Now understand, these two parties are camped across from each other, and there could be devastation that takes place. Kind of like, listen, you don't touch him. I don't want you to bless him, because when he gets blessed, I don't want him to think it was Laban's blessing, and I don't want you to curse him. I just want you to say anything good or bad. So the next day, there's this interaction that takes place where you hear Laban's rant and then you hear Jacob's rant. I want you to just see a slice of Laban's rant here. And Laban said to Jacob, what have you done? You've deceived me. You've carried off my daughters like captives of war. Why did you run off secretly and deceive me? Why didn't you tell me so I could send you away with joy and singing to music of timbrels and harps? Yeah, a going away party like that was gonna happen. You didn't even let me kiss my grandchildren and my daughters goodbye. You have done a foolish thing, you heel grabber, you conniving, manipulating. This is Laban's rant. Well, later on, Jacob goes off on his own rant. He says, well, you want to know what working for you for 20 years was like? This is what it was like as I watched your herds, verse 40. This was my situation. The heat consumed me in the daytime and the cold at night. Sleep fled from my eyes. It was like that for 20 years I was in your household. I worked for 14 years for your 2 daughters and 6 years for your flocks, and you changed my wages 10 times by negotiating the contract repeatedly. If God of my father Abraham and the fear of Isaac, the God of Isaac, called the fear of Isaac here, had not been with me, you would surely have sent me away empty-handed. A couple things to note here. Number one, Jacob is making God noises. If the God of my father Abraham and the God of my dad Isaac hadn't been with me, I would have walked away with nothing. Just notice something. At this point, he's crediting his wealth, not to his conniving, his manipulating, and his heel grabbing. He's basically saying, I was obviously under the favor of God, or this never would have happened if God had not been with me. Jacob is making God noises. Listen, this is a man in motion. He's beginning to credit God for the blessings that have happened. I just pause right there, and I just wonder how many of you are seized by those words, if God had not been with me. I just wonder how many testimonies would arrive from our different campuses today if people just raise their hand and says, listen, I remember a time if God had not been with me. I don't know how we would have made it through that. If God had not been with me through that career upheaval, through that divorce, through that cancer scare, through that tragic loss, through that paralyzing grief, if God had not been with me, I don't know how I would have come out the other side of that if God had not been with me. Jacob is making God noises. I need you to notice something else. He refers to God as the God of his grandpa and the God of his dad. And I'm still kind of asking the question, Jacob, when is the God of Abraham going to become your God? If the God of my grandfather had not been with me, when's he going to become your God? And Laban is like, Laban believes that those are his flocks, those are his daughters, those are his grandkids, and you are stealing them. And he goes, what am I going to do? And they end up making a treaty. Now, they are not friends. A treaty is just kind of like, okay, listen, you don't harm me, I won't harm you. And Laban goes back home. Whew. Laban goes back home. 10-day pursuit, this verbal throwdown, and Laban goes back home. And now we go, dude, you're home free. Jacob, relax, you're home free. No. Anything else on the horizon that Jacob is going to have to experience now? Maybe the homicidal brother. Conflict number two. When Jacob lit out 20 years before, Esau was ready to kill him. 20 years is a long time for a temper to dissipate. Jacob's got to kind of like put his toe in the water and see what the temperature is here. Chapter 32, Jacob sent messengers ahead of him to his brother Esau in the land of Seir, which is in the country of Edom. Now, he instructed them, listen, the messenger, this is what you're gonna do. This is what you are to say to my Lord Esau. Your servant Jacob says, it's like that blessing that I stole, I'm giving it back. Your servant Jacob says, I've been staying with Laban up north and have remained there until now. Now, I don't need part of the estate. I'm not coming for a handout. I have cattle and donkeys and sheep and goats, male and female servants. And now I'm sending this message to my Lord that I might find favor in your eyes. He's checking the temperature. And the messengers take off. And a while later, the messengers come back. Verse 6, when the messengers returned to Jacob, they said, we went to your brother Esau, and now he is coming to meet you, and 400 men are with him. Welcome home party, maybe? Not 4. Not 40. 400 Esau hunting buddies are on the move. And Jacob goes, he's going to kill everybody. To Jacob is 400 guys, This feels like a small army to him. And quick, he goes, okay, he separates his family and his herds and flocks into two groups. Wife, kids, flocks, herds, cows, because he's thinking in terror. He thinks, if Esau comes and massacres this group, maybe someone in this group will get away. And if Esau comes and he hits this group first and massacres them, maybe some of my kids in this group will get away. He's just thinking of survival here. And what happens next is that Jacob prays. Now, I don't know that he had prayed like this in his life. I just want you to see the prayer, and I'll just make a couple brief comments around it. Then Jacob prayed, "O God of my father Abraham, God of my father Isaac, Lord, you who said to me, go back to your country and your relatives, and I will make you prosper." Remember the promise. "I'm unworthy of all the kindness and faithfulness you've shown your servant. I had only my staff when I crossed the Jordan, but now I've become two camps. When I took off 20 years ago, I had nothing. I had a walking stick, and now I'm returning, and I have so much stuff that I can separate it into two groups. Save me, I pray, from the hand of my brother Esau, because I'm scared. I am afraid that he will come and attack me and also the mothers with their children. He might kill everybody. But you have said, I will surely make you prosper and will make your descendants like the sands of the sea, which cannot be counted." And by the way, if my descendants are going to be like the sand of the sea and everybody gets killed, that's not going to happen. I don't know that he's ever prayed like that in his life. What's going on here? What's going on here? What's going on here is that Jacob has experienced a breaking point pressure that he can't connive his way through. He can't manipulate his way through. Heel grabber isn't gonna solve this one. And he kind of goes, God, I got nothing but you. Help, I'm scared. I am really scared. A question, what do you rely on in order to get through conflict? I just know if we took a little poll, some of you would say, hey, Jeff, I'm smart. I mean, really smart. And I can think my way through most jams I get into. Some of you go, no, personality, gifted personality. I'm likable. I can schmooze my way out of just about any situation. And some of you go, money can't solve all problems, but it can solve a lot of them. And others would say, no, Jeff, I power up. I control and dominate. I dominate and intimidate. I can boss my way through most. I power up, I boss my way through most situations. And then that day comes where a crisis enters your life. And you go, I'm not gonna think my way out of this one. I can't schmooze my way out of this one. I can't buy my way out of this one. And it doesn't look like I'm gonna intimidate my way out of this one. And right now, you have just experienced one of the greatest opportunities in your life to see God and to know God and to trust God in a way that you have never seen him and known him and trusted him before because you need him so badly. Newsflash, you always need him. But sometimes it is more painfully aware. You're more painfully aware of it than at other times. God, I got nowhere else to turn. And that's where Jacob is at this breaking point. Save me from my brother. And so now, he's standing there and he's just kind of patiently waiting, the man of trust. Oh, no. He begins to connive immediately. He goes, okay, God, I'm trusting you, but let me help out. Let he who is without anxious control freaking tendencies cast the first stone. He gets 220 sheep and sends them off with a messenger. And when Esau and the 400 cronies run into he said, who are the long sheep? Oh, these are your servant Jacob's, and these are a gift to you. Behind the 220 goats. Behind the 220 goats, a little ways later, 220 sheep, a gap between the two. Between the 220 sheep, 50 cattle, cows and oxen. These are a gift from your servant, Jacob. Behind the 50 cattle, you got 30 camels, and behind the 30 camels, 30 donkeys. 550 animals sent in waves. Your servant Jacob, your servant Jacob, your servant Jacob. What's he doing here? He says, I ripped you off 20 years ago and God has blessed me. Here it is. I want to make things right. This is rightfully yours. He's sending all these ahead. What he's trying to do is calm Esau down. All I can say about that, is he trusting God or is he conniving? I think he's trying to do both. And all I can say is that this trust thing, there is a little bit of back and forth in this trust thing. God, I trust you. Yeah, wait just a minute. This is just it's so human. I love the story. It is just so human. And night falls, and Jacob sends his wives and his sons and all the animals across the Jabbok River. And he himself is about to cross the Jabbok River, and a guy, unidentified guy, stands in his way and keeps him from crossing the river. Now, if you think you're already caught in a strange story, industrial strength weirdness is about to take place. So, this is what you find. So Jacob was left alone on one side of the river, and a man wrestled with him until daybreak. Does that seem strange to you? That would occur in that story. Your homicidal brother is on a murderous rampage, you think, and a guy shows up and says, let's wrestle. Okay. No, this is a fight. This is a cage fight. And apparently, now, later in the story, Jacob will say about this incident, I saw God face to face and survived it. Jacob doesn't believe he's wrestling any normal human being. He's wrestling God in human form. Conflict number 3 is a conflict with the pursuing God. Jacob wrestles with God. I think all along, Jacob has been wrestling with God. I believe Jacob has been wrestling with God since he fled in his conflict with Laban. His conflict with Esau was actually a conflict with God. The pursuing God. I want so much more information than I'm given with this story. It is so brief, and it's just like I just have dozens of questions, and the author was simply not interested in telling me what I want to know. So this is what we got. Jacob left alone. A man wrestled with him till daybreak. And Jacob won't let go. He won't give up. He won't tap out. And so it says in verse 25, when the man saw that he could not overpower him, that Jacob is not going to back down, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip so that the hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. It's like this all-night fight, and then the guy just stops, he just reaches out and touches his hip, and his hip is out of socket. Dislocates Jacob's hip. He is not done yet. Jacob is still just like on the ground, like grabbing onto this guy and will not let him go. The man said, let me go, for it is daybreak. Jacob replied, I will not let you go unless you bless me. The man asked him, say it. What is your name? What is your name? And he forces Jacob to say, Jacob. He answers, I am a heel grabber. I have been a manipulator and a conniver since I was born. My name is heel grabber. And the man said, your name will no longer be Jacob, and he gets a midlife name change. What's his new name? But Israel. And the word Israel in Hebrew, we think it means like wrestles with God or struggles with God. Because you struggled with God and with humans and have overcome, and Jacob gets a midlife name change. Now, Our culture is just different than that culture. Because often we pick a name for our child because we like the sound of it. There was a day, however, in our history where often parents would name a child after the attribute that they wanted that child to grow into. So parents would name their daughters Joy, or Grace, or Charity, which means love, or Constance, which means faithfulness, or Chastity, which means purity. Not simply because they liked the sound of the name, but because that was what they wanted. They wanted so much to have a joyful, gracious, pure, giving, loving, faithful child. And so they would name a child with the hopes that the child would grow into that. Similarly, with Jacob here, your name has been heel grabber. Now it is Israel. It's not simply a new name, it's a new identity that Jacob is supposed to grow into. See, this is not simply a change of name, it's a change of trajectory. It's a change of character. Your name has been Jacob, and now it is Israel. Now at this point, Jacob has 11 sons. And so these sons are the sons of Israel, or we would call them the children of Israel. When we're talking about the children of Israel, we're literally talking about the offspring of Jacob. And those sons have names like Levi, Judah, Reuben, Dan, Naphtali, Asher, Gad. These become the 12, when another brother is born, the 12 tribes of Israel, the 12 clans of Israel. Literally, if you looked at Israel on a map, marked out by tribal with all of the sons' names, that's the children of Israel, the offspring of Israel. But I've got to ask you, in one of these moments where you just go, Jeff, this pressure is so strong, I feel like this could break me here. Just a question I have is, well, what if God wants to change your name? What if God wants to change your name? You say, well, what's your name? And you go, my name is Perfectionist. Awesome, how's that working out for you? Well, it seems to be demoralizing the people around me and destroying me. What if God wants to change your name, mid-course correction, call you to a new trajectory and call you to a new behavior and call you to a new character? Well, what's my new name? I don't know. Flawed yet growing? So what's your name? My name's Partier. Really? When did you get that name? When I went to college? How old are you? I'm 34. What if that name describes the last decade and it's not supposed to describe the next decade? What if God gives you a new name? The new name is self-control. What is your name? My name is enraged bitterness. What if your gracious God desires to call you gracious? What is your name? My name is self-focus. What if he wants to call you self-giving? Now the transformation will not happen in a day. But often God stops us in crisis, renames us in crisis, and later, years later, we look back and say, no. There was a time in the spring of 2018 where I hit this crisis and I couldn't think or schmooze or buy or boss my way out of it. And I met God. I saw God and began to know God and began to trust God in a way I have never seen him, known him, or trusted him before. And it changed my trajectory. I'm so not perfect and this journey is so not finished, but it changed me. What if the crisis that you most desire simply to get out of is the greatest opportunity you have ever had to see God, know God, and to trust God in a brand new way? The man disappears. Israel limps. He's limping and he's blessed. And off in the distance, I wonder if he sees a cloud of dust rising with this 400 group coming at him. And he gets in front. His kids are behind him by mom. And the flocks are back there. And he goes out and just starts to bow down to the ground as Esau and this army come at him. But Esau ran to meet Jacob, and he embraced him. He threw his arms around his neck and he kissed him, and they wept. The 400 guys was a welcome home party. And then Esau goes, who are the kids? And Israel brings them forward and introduces his kids to their uncle. And his wives to their brother-in-law. And then Esau goes, what's up with the livestock? And Jacob goes, I was scared. And I sent them ahead to try to appease you as gifts. Please take them. And Esau goes, I got enough stuff. I don't need this stuff. And Jacob goes, no. I really need you to take it. His explanation is really interesting. Verse 10, no, please, said Jacob, if I have found favor in your eyes, accept this gift from me. For to see your face is like seeing. To see your face is like seeing the face of God. Now that you have received me favorably, and Jacob has seen the face of God in the reconciliation with his brother. Going, yeah, but it's just one little question that's still bugging me. And it's that Jacob is still referring to God as the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac. He's still referring to it as the God of his grandpa and the God of his dad. Esau goes one way, Jacob goes another way. And Jacob ends up here at a place called Shechem. It's a big deal with Shechem. 2 generations earlier, when Abraham migrated, Abraham, I'll bless you, just leave, just follow my voice and leave. It says that Abraham left his land, he left his family, he left the family gods. And one of the first things Abraham does, Genesis chapter 12, is he travels to Shechem and he sets up an altar there to God and he calls on the name of the Lord. Jacob, in returning home, goes to Shechem, where Abraham had visited early in his journey. Jacob sets up an altar. And we find this description of the place. There he set up an altar and called it El Elohi Israel. Now, if you're just reading through that, you just probably skip right past it. El Elohi Israel is God, the God of who's Israel? It's him. And this is the point at which Jacob goes, it's not just grandpa's God. And it's not just dad's God. It's my God. And my fervent hope is that as you pass through a season of massive conflict and massive crisis and deep confusion, disappointment, and pain, is you would say, I emerged from that and it was no longer my mom's God. It was no longer my church's God. It was no longer simply the God of my youth group. It was my God. He's my God. He's my Father. He's my friend. He's my Savior. He's my rescuer. He's my identity. He's my God, not the God of my grandfather. All I've been attempting to say today through this story is that the space that we most desire to get away from is that very space where God whispers, see me, know me, trust me. Let him meet you. Let him name you. Let him bless you. And let him transform you into the person that he created you to be. And now, gracious God, we give thanks for this powerful story that moves through the centuries and crashes into our own lives. Gracious God, meet us, name us, bless us, transform us in the name of Jesus who came for us. Amen. We'll see you next week.